So to kick off, can you please just introduce yourselves and yeah, give me a little bit of your background into rocketry and also how you started in rocketry? Like what sort of started that first interest?
Well, you better go first,
Okay.
because unfortunately you were there in the beginning.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
Well, yes, unfortunately, because there was a prior club
Yep.
before Queensland Rocketry
Yep.
Society. There was a club called the Queensland Rocketry Club. And I walked into a place called Hobby One
Yep.
and purchased
Yeah,
that rocket.
Yep.
And while I was in there was a little flyer on the bench, and it gave, interested in rocketry, please contact Paul Kleitchen, and the mobile phone number. I contacted Paul, and he had already done one launch at a launch site at Waterford, and that was on the flat of a dairy farm there, and he was trying to get a group of people together. At that stage, there was no idea of forming a club, and there was just a group of people who launched rockets on a Sunday morning. Some of those traditions continue.
Yes.
And anyway, so after one or two launches, occasionally we would meet the odd person. A person by the name of Blake Nicklick came along to one launch. A new member came. His name was Simon Ledkey. There were a couple of other people who came along at that stage, and we decided we would get together and form a club. There had been, prior to that, another club some 10 years previously in southeast Queensland, and it had just dissolved. Paul knew a little bit about that, and he wanted to get a rocketry club going, based around the launch site at Waterford. He had a rotary wing license, and he knew a little bit about these exotic things called NOTAMs, and he said he'd arrange public liability insurance for the club. At a later point in time, we eventually found out that Paul's NOTAM was one that he had raised to do crop dusting, and he thought he could fly rockets under that. And his public liability insurance, he would, if there was a claim, he would use his electrician's public liability insurance. This club rapidly fell apart after about 4 or 5 launches at Waterford, and we even had a television station turn up at one stage to attend one of our launches. But Paul decided he was going to dissolve the club. That was a unilateral decision by himself. He dissolved the entire club, and he said he would take his expenses out of whatever people had paid as far as membership goes, and we were left high and dry without a club. So subsequent to that, a group of us, 6 of us.
So just before we move on, can you maybe tell me about one of the launch, like a typical launch day? What sort of motors? What sort of rockets? How many people?
That was a big rocket.
Okay.
That was the highest flying rocket in the club. It flew on 2 stages. First stage took it to about 500 feet.
Wow.
And it then went to about 1,800 feet. Because it was on a dairy farm, we were quite concerned about it. This had a streamer recovery and would actually come back to Earth. It flew on a D12-0 and I think a D12-5 it might have been. Yeah, for 5 or 7, I forget, but it got to about 2,000 feet. We decided that we needed to be able to understand how high they got, because we had no concept of putting electronics in something this small. So we used basically a theodolite. We had basically set up a device, and you knew how far you were from the rocket launch point, and you measured its height at apogee, measured the angle at apogee, took the sine of that, and we had a set of tables, and we'd work out whether it went to 1,300 or 1,800 feet. So it was a maths intensive process. I had a young boy at that point in time who was in year 8, and I thought this was excellent for him to get him into. He had a particular maths focus, and it was ideal.
Right.
And we started a bit of a project of building rockets and calculating diameters and working out centre of gravity and centre of pressure, all those typical things that are required. And I thought that was wonderful. he eventually lost interest in rocketry and left me high and dry in the sport by myself.
Nice.
Where would you like to go?
Well, it's so I guess we're right at the point of forming QRS.
QRS was formed. It was the Queensland Rocketry Society was formed because we thought the word society was better than just club.
Yep.
And
An association wasn't available.
yeah, it was something. So we couldn't. There were certain things we couldn't do.
Yeah.
I think initially we had at our very first launch, we had probably about 13 or 14 people.
Okay.
A couple of other persons who weren't at our formative meeting
Yep.
turned up.
And what year was that?
2007. That would have been in May, maybe April 2007,
Okay.
our very first launch. Club was formed the 15th of March 2007.
Yep.
And we got together and sorted it out. We recontacted the farmer at the property at Waterford, and we had a loose committee. Our first president was a gentleman by the name of Peter Scott.
Yep.
Our treasurer was Ryan McDonald, and because I said I could type up minutes, I was made secretary.
Yep.
And everyone else was a committee member.
Do you remember who the rest of the club was at that stage? I assume someone like Blake and Peter.
Well, there was Blake. Peter wasn't there at that stage.
Yep.
Brian Dixon
Yep.
was there. My son Sam was there. We had to submit, I think, at that stage, to the Department of Fair Trading, the 5 or 7 people that were in the actual club. And my son, because he was 13 years of age, couldn't be in that list. And I think we may have roped Peter into basically becoming there, even though he wasn't there, and probably at that point in time didn't have an interest in rocketry truly, but came along because his son asked him to.
Right. Yeah. That's right.
And
Cart. Was Cart there?
no, we met Cart quite some time afterwards, probably
Wasn't that much?
about 6 to 12 months after that. It would have been. We had done a couple of launches before that. We did we went back to.
He was associated with the previous club.
No.
Because he told me.
No.
He told me that
I know every member who was there, who was in the previous club, but he could have been in a previous club
with Paul Kleitchen, and he paid his membership fees, and then Paul Kleitchen dissolved the club a day or a week later.
Oh, right.
And
Well,
so,
yeah.
And Cart went around
To get his money. Oh, I
his
didn't know
money
that.
back in Paul, because Cart was a big guy and he looked.
I remember. Yeah.
So he got his money back.
No,
That's good. Carl, I remember, he was a real character, and I had one of the other members come up to me and say about Cart. I've never seen anyone put a motor together with a hammer before.
Wayne Roberts did that too.
Yeah. But that was. I wasn't aware of that. I know that Simon Lebke got his money back. Everyone else who was in the club didn't get their monies back because Paul advised that he had cost, and he'd taken his costs out, and after there was cost, there was but cents left. So Paul's idea of a bank account was a blue ice cream tin where he would put all of his club memberships, launch fees, etc., would go into the ice cream tin, and he would take out expenses as required.
What were the membership costs back in those days?
It was about $10
and for a year.
For a year,
Okay.
yeah.
And then launch fees.
Launch fees were possibly about the same.
Okay.
So there was, and it was basically to most launch gear was privately owned.
Yep.
So I'm not really quite sure what we were paying launch fees for.
Yep. Insurance.
We didn't have insurance till later in the stage. One of the things that Paul Kleitchen said, he was happy to hand over all of the records to the club if we became incorporated.
Yep.
He probably said that because he didn't think we would be able to
Yep.
become incorporated. One of our early meetings, and we used to have meetings in the Brisbane Forest Park. Sorry, it might have been Daisy Hills Forest Park, and we just go up there and we'd all meet. That was a central location, and Ryan had come up from the Gold Coast, myself and Brian had come in from the western suburbs. Peter Scott would come up, and Ari by this time
Yep.
had joined the fold.
Yep.
And we would sit down at a park bench and we'd work out who was going to do what. So we ended up with things such as Ryan took the logo and used the logo. Blake continued to work on the website. Blake
Yep.
had put together the website for Quaitchen,
Yep.
the Queensland Rocketry Club. So he simply migrated the entire site because Blake owned that site.
Yeah, yeah.
And he also owned the name, and he then took that whole name over and took it over to Queensland Rocketry Society.
Sounds great.
He still retained ownership of the name.
Yep. And when did this young lad join the club?
In about December.
2007.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
at the end of the year.
So why don't you tell us a bit about your, I guess, background leading into joining QRS and how you got into rocketry, all those sort of questions.
I was in an RSL club on the north side for my wife's job, and it was pretty boring. So I was and they had a newspaper, Courier Mail, and it was a Saturday night. So I was reading through the newspaper, and towards the end there was this whole page article about QRS. I always knew it popped out in my head.
Wow.
And I just didn't know anyone was doing rocketry in Australia. And here they were, just down the road from where I lived, the next day. So went down there with a friend. The most obvious thing, of course, was Ari had that great big rocket.
One that never flew.
One that never flew.
Yeah.
It was on display, and there were no big launch. There were lots of level 0 launches. There was no high powered launches in those days. The biggest launch was a G. And the thing I remember was Blake had some sort of Patriot missile replica, and it took over, went horizontal, and it headed off towards the hills. It just looked like a real missile. A real missile and crashed into the hills.
Was that the one that buried its nose cone into the ground, and when we pulled it out, all the paint remained on the inside of the crater?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I think I've seen some photos. Yeah. So what was your first rocket?
First, it was something like that. I can't remember what it was.
Okay.
The first real
Was
one.
it the red one?
Probably was. The first real one was what's that? That phenolic. You've got it downstairs.
I guess I have got a crate of rockets just there.
Yeah, there's a famous.
You had a CC Express.
Yeah, that was about the same time.
Yeah.
Flew on countless G motors.
Yeah.
Countless. Okay. Yeah.
I mean,
An aerial, was it?
No, a smaller aerial. Callisto.
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 Yeah.
Okay. So what sort of altitude would you get out of a Callisto on a G? And this is still at Waterford, is it? Or,
No. When I first went,
LA2A?
it was out where you still launched.
Okay.
We were in the new paddock. We were in Gittins, in John Gittins' paddock. We moved from Michael's already, I think, by the time. That was our first launch, I think, in that paddock when we came.
Yeah, where they now got the water treatment set up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we had to go up the hill to pick up the trailer from.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Christoffel.
He was
Just
kicked.
round the corner.
No, it was up the hill. Yeah, and he was kicked out eventually when they progressed with the water treatment. And he was
Ray Jackson.
Ray Jackson.
Yeah. So we had that. Yeah. So by that time we had already had Ari had come along to a first launch. We had already submitted a proposal to CASA, and they told us that we couldn't launch at Waterford because we were too close to the Parkridge ILS beacon, and all the aircraft would be converging on that point. and we applied to get a 5,000-foot waiver there, and they said that we're going to get above 400 feet. Our first launch was only 400 feet.
Okay.
So we didn't
At Waterford.
at Waterford,
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, and once we got to, by the time we got to Christopher's paddock, we were making application with CASA to try and get to 5,000 feet. We got it relatively quick, 6 weeks to get an approval through.
Yep.
And I went down to CASA down at Eagle Farm, had a couple of meetings with them. We outlined the procedure. They said, this is what you've got to do. You can't launch if there's anything within 500 metres of your launch site.
Yep.
So you've got a kilometre radius from your point of launching, and we need to decide where that point is on the map. And we weren't quite sure where we were in the paddock, so they made the corner of the roads.
Yep.
Cedar Pocket and Cedar Grove Road was the centre of our field of airspace, and probably still is. That's
Close to,
yeah. So we then they then taught us how to go and format a NOTAM request and submit that to Air Services, and basically set up the basic rules that we still follow today.
So roughly when was that?
2007.
Yeah, it would have been. This would have been probably August, September, because we were well and truly, we had raised a number of NOTAMs prior to that, and we had basically had a pretty solid process in mind. We were starting to develop a bit of infrastructure.
Yep. So, what can you tell me about, I guess, the transition from low mid-power launches to high-power launches?
That happened a little bit later because we were specifically excluded from having high-powered launches. Our launch site was not a high-powered launch site, and that was a process that happened. We had to make application, and we had to do a whole pile of things. We had to do environmental impact studies. We had no idea how to do an environmental impact study, so Google came in quite good, and CASA were very, very supportive of us. So they basically said, well, you need to consider the following things, and they gave us a set of headings, and we wrote 1-paragraph responses to that, and we eventually got the site classed as a high-powered launch site.
Right. Yep.
That was still somewhat of a problem because we had to apply no more than 72 hours before and no less than 48 hours before. So we had this very narrow window where we had to apply for a window. So if you're flying on a Sunday, you had to basically lodge all your paperwork on the Friday.
Yep.
And that was well and good while you were dealing with normal, everyday people who knew the job. You'd quite often have people who they tell, look, I've got something on this afternoon, we'll do this on Monday. You have a launch scheduled on Sunday.
So is that for lodging the NOTAM, or is that advising there's going to be high power?
That was to lodge the NOTAM. A person by the name of Anna Henry, who is a CASA officer, said, why don't you apply for a permanent danger area? And that way you haven't got to, you still have to lodge a NOTAM, but we don't have to do all the checks and balances and say it was, you're launching in a danger area which has specifically been created for the purposes of launching high-powered rockets. And it's activated by NOTAM.
And roughly when was that?
That probably would have been about March of the following year, I think, by the time it finally went through. We had a couple of near misses where they were saying, we'll probably go through, but we'll give you the approval on Monday. And for them, the difference between Friday afternoon and Monday was nothing. So there are several NOTAMs that weren't issued until late in the day.
Okay, so we're at the point now where we've got your NOTAMs, you've got a 5,000-foot ceiling, and you've got approval for high-power motors. So what happens next? Like, is there a rush for people to do L1s? Is there a rush to import motors?
No, we didn't have a prefecture even at that stage. So we had to get a prefecture.
Tripoli was around and you guys were aware of it?
Many of us were Tripoli members, but we still didn't have any, I think I had joined Tripoli back in the day before QRS was formed, a couple other people had joined, thinking that once we became members, we would quickly benefit from Triple E, but that wasn't the case. There was a new Triple E prefecture starting to look in Western Australia, and we started communicating with the prefect, Dave Cousins. And Dave Cousins said, "I'll hop on a plane and I'll bring neighbours over and show you how to do it." So Dave hopped on a plane and flew to southeast Queensland. We had a Saturday launch, and he could only bring. He bought several H motors. I think they were H73s. They were small H's. He bought them over, and he bought 2 J motors over. And so to have a prefect, we had to have someone qualify as level 2. So the first rocket that went up came back in pieces about the size of a postage stamp.
No recollection of who the owner was?
Yeah, it was a gentleman by the name of Ari.
Haven't heard that name before.
Haven't heard that name before.
Doesn't know what he's doing, that guy.
Anyway, the other person who then had his rocket, because they loaded both rockets, and I don't know how we decided who would fly. Ari wanted to fly, so he put his rocket up, and it came back in. I think it had a problem with shear pins. Or it didn't have shear pins. That was the nature of the problem, and so the top popped off, and then it was just shredded into pieces. It was quite spectacular. It was just like confetti raining back down to earth. Brian Dixon was the other person. He had the flight, and he had a bullpup, and it just worked.
Great.
It went up and down.
It went up and down as it was supposed to. A very simple launch, and that's all you need to get an L2. Was a very simple launch.
Yes. So that was L1 and L2 for Brian.
No, it was L1.
It was L1. Okay.
Brian did his L1. And did his L2.
The same day.
Same day. Yeah. I don't know.
How did Dave manage to get his hands on the H&J motors?
I believe he was buying them through a Western Australian motor supplier who was supplying rockets to an organisation called PARC, which was Perth Advanced Rocketry Club. And they had an arrangement with a hobby shop essentially.
Using its bite.
So he had rockets, or he had a supply of rockets, and he'd had a falling out with the club, but he'd already purchased several rockets, so he brought his stock over, and we taught us how to do error pack relays in the morning, and we all had to do our tests beforehand, so.
Was there a test for L1?
No, but we didn't know who was going to qualify. So everyone had to do the test. Everyone had to do the test.
I might point out, this was a secretive meeting. Nobody, apart from the people that were involved, knew it. And of course, Len, who can't help himself, posted a cryptic post on the forum. And I looked at it, and I sent a reply. Hang on, for this to happen, because his rocket landed in the dam, and it was freezing cold. He pulled it out, and then he tipped the water on his foot. But anyway, so I sent, hey, hang on, this must have been a H motor. But no one's certified.
There's some things we just don't discuss.
And then Len quickly sent me a private message and said, this is hush hush. And went from there.
So that was the same day Brian did his L1.
We all we only had Dave Cousins over for the weekend.
Nobody even knew Dave was there apart from these guys.
How's Dave known to the club back then?
Well, I think we had a couple of people. We were investigating a prefecture. And I've got toothpicks here, George. Feel free.
Yeah.
You can grab them if you want. By hand or do yourself a toothpick.
I'm right. No, there was a forum that was run by Blake and Dave, and I remember when he actually joined, and it turned out he had an interest in Japanese culture, and he had he's got a samurai in a glass case in his main living room, and
They come out if you want to pull the container tray out.
Too much. So that's really where Dave Cousins was well known.
Okay, that's interesting.
There had been another chap. There had been a previous forum that members of us were on, and it was a forum of the Perth Advanced Rocketry Club.
Okay.
And it was run by a chap. I forget the chap's name now, but his name was Impact on the forum.
Okay.
And
yeah, what I'd heard about the forum, the only one I knew, which is one run by Blake, was that the previous forum only had finite storage space, so a lot of info was getting deleted. So Blake grabbed what was there and kept it all, so that we had that repository of information.
Yeah,
That's what
it was privately run. It was becoming a pain for the bloke. He worked in an electrical store, I think a Harvey Norman type store somewhere down near Albany, and we'd met several people who'd been on the. We had actually become quite friendly with several of the people in Western Australia. Prior to that, Stephen Forth and his boys from the wheat belt down in Western Australia.
So Brian Dixon's got his L2.
Got his L2.
And now you've got he's the prefect, I assume.
He's the prefect. We then had to get it. We then had to get the prefecture approved by the board of directors.
Yep.
And there was a board of directors meeting coming up. And Ari was planning on going to Western Australia.
Yep.
Dave Cousins was planning to go to Western Australia, and they made representation to the board of directors at the annual general meeting, and we lodged our application. They were more than happy to have another prefecture because Western Australia was already a prefecture, and I think Victoria may have had was a prefecture as well.
Yep.
And they just needed to approve our launch site and launch procedures.
Yep.
And we dealt with a chap by the name of Dave Wilkins from the Victorian. Yep. So we then had to have a lot of communication with Dave Wilkins about getting our launch site, which was approved by CASA, was approved by Air Services. The Office of the Airspace Regulator had already approved it. Dave had to approve it.
Okay. So we've got a prefecture, we've got a prefect, and the prefect can approve the L1 and L2s.
Yeah. Yes.
So what do we have next? Like a flight, you go off your L2, and George is thinking about doing L1 and L2. Is that right?
I didn't do my L2 for a little while after. I did my L2 at Williams.
Okay.
And Dave Cousins was the prefect. Signed off on that.
Okay. What about you, George? When were your L1 and L2s?
Yeah, they were both at Cedar Grove in the year 2010.
Okay. Cool.
Because I went from L0 to L2 in 1 year.
Nice.
That's why you don't have your L1 card.
That's probably why, because the sequence is right. It's the same year, actually. 2010, 2010.
Okay.
I went with the option of caution. So I had it.
Is that an option, is it?
Well, we did see we did see people rock up to do certification flights that threw caution to the wind.
Yep. Okay.
With the inevitable results.
Yep.
So I launched with a Ariel. I think it was a big Callisto.
Yeah.
I could have done it on the Callisto, but it would have gone scary high.
Okay.
And that L1 just went like clockwork.
Perfect.
And then a bigger public missiles rocket.
They were all public missiles rockets in those days, weren't they?
Yeah, somewhat bigger one, 2-star, dual deployment. Yeah, so it was a bit more complicated.
Nice. Okay.
It also it also went without any drama whatsoever.
Nice.
And that was L2. So it was a while in before L3 came along, possibly
I think for you
4 years.
Yeah, I think it was 2014. I think I was there for your L3 at Anara. Yeah.
Yes, yes, it was. That also went without a hitch.
Yeah, perfect.
The only thing it landed on the road about a K up the road. Got a bit of scratching.
Send the kids up. Yeah, I remember you flew that with 2 Raven 3s.
I had 3, mate. I had 3. I had what's that? A public missiles altimeter. I had 3 altimeters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. So we're on to the topic of L3s. And obviously we need an L3 in the club to get a TAP. We need a TAP to do an L3 certification. So how did that process happen? Like, who was the first L3? Did they end up becoming the TAP?
Blake was first. Blake was first
Okay.
L3. He went down to Victoria.
Okay.
He took his L3 rocket down his carry-on luggage.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
And he just sat there.
Times
People
are
looked at him,
Times
but
are
no one
different.
said anything.
Was it all sort of plugged in together? And
I'm not sure. I can't imagine it.
No.
Wow. Okay.
Inform the pilot. I'd like to speak with him.
Yes. Well,
What are your demands?
well, and his rocket name was L3, wasn't it? ELLE3.
Oh, could have been. Yeah,
I think it was.
Yeah.
So who was his TAP?
It would have been either Dave Wilkins or David Boyd.
One of those two, or it was 2. You've got to have 2 taps.
Yes.
Yeah,
And it could have been Dave Cousins as well.
Yeah, it could have been Dave.
I'm pretty sure it was. We saw Dave Cousins quite a bit.
Yeah, we went over to William.
He came over to our 10th anniversary.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember that.
So that was.
And he's been over a few times recently because I've bumped into him Blakes. So that's in the last 6 to 12 months. But anyway, okay, so that's great. So we've got it now. We've got a TAP in Queensland. And what happens as far as the floodgates opening with L3s? Did that happen?
Did it? I think you could count the L3s probably on 2 hands. I don't think there was ever a big flood of motors being launched.
Okay.
And those, a lot of the M motors that were launched by the same people. I think Blake would have done several M motor launches.
There were a few actually at Sea
Jeff.
Jeff's way.
We would regularly have people come over from Western Australia. I remember PK and a few other people.
Mostly
PK abbreviation was Paul Kelly.
Yep, okay.
But yeah, so came over.
I bought some of his hardware, his electronics. Wishtronics.
Wishtronics, yeah.
So
I didn't buy his tracking devices.
Yeah, well, I did.
Yeah, I bought his Cluster-Matic.
Yeah.
So you don't remember, because I remember seeing photos, and I think I could be wrong, you guys were around at the time, not me, of Simon and Ari doing theirs in Victoria. Is that accurate or is that inaccurate?
That sort of seems right, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So it wasn't in Queensland. It couldn't have been.
Because we didn't have a launch site with sufficient altitude to do that. And at that point in time, we commenced the process of starting to look for a launch site that had sufficient, where we could get at least 10,000 feet, if not more.
A process that continues to this day.
Yeah. So we investigated several sites.
Yes, but what's that guy's name? Whose daughter knew John?
Phil Entwistle.
Yeah, he had someone. That's right.
They worked in the same office.
He had a company, and
he was a technical writer for Boeing. Phil, and he worked and John Coggan's daughter worked in the same office. I'm not sure in what capacity. And she said, "Oh, Dad's got a farm." And we've later found out how big the farm was.
That was amazing.
But we had investigated 3 other sites prior to that.
Okay.
We investigated the site at Millmerran.
Yep.
and it was limited to about 7,500 feet, which we didn't. We had 5,000 feet at Cedar Grove. Why would you go all the way to Newton? We investigated another site at Miles, and that was owned by a club member. Were you there that weekend? Went out to,
No, I didn't go out
I
there.
didn't go out there.
Bruce went out, I think.
Bruce later went out.
You told me the story.
Yeah, Bruce later went out to this site. It was owned by a chap by the name of Chris Teary. And when we arrived there, these guys were all dressed in Russian uniforms.
Yep.
And they were truly Cold War, Soviet era Russian and speaking in put-on Russian accents.
Okay. Wow.
Anyway, so
and
but the timber was heavily
timbered.
Heavily timbered, and it's still there. I'm not sure what the status of its NOTAM or whether they ever got a permanent danger area. If they didn't get a permanent danger area, all their approval would lapsed after 2 years. This was
long time ago. There was the third site you said you were looking at, or was that?
That was John Coggins. That was John Coggins, and it took a while to get that through and approved. It was in the middle of it. We wanted to get a high-powered site approved there. The Air Force objected.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Because they were using the area as a training area, and they thought they didn't need the extra realism of rockets coming up at their aircraft.
Yep, they should be thanking us.
The simulator was good.
Yes. So,
and it was just to go from 5,000 feet, and we tried to get 50,000 feet. Because we had a launch paddock that was 17 miles across. And was fallow at the time we were launching in it. And if it wasn't fallow, we were hoping to be able to go elsewhere, and we found we had to get a very big cylinder approved so that we could move around.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Now, just before we do move on, because it's going to follow that theme, my recollections, please correct me if I'm wrong, Nick Lottering did his L3 at Cedar Grove, and also Mike Passarecki did his L3 at Cedar Grove.
That's the name. That's Mike from Western Australia.
No, Mike Passarecki is US. I think he's...
Yes.
Okay.
He'd gone to where he was a NASA employee.
Yes.
I spent hours the other day racking my name over, racking my brain over what his name was.
Yeah.
We accompanied him on a rocketry recovery in Western Australia.
Yeah.
He had a nose cone. He probably had a couple of 100 metres of shot cord in the nose cone. So when that nose cone when the rocket came back, it was trailing this monstrous piece of thing.
Yeah.
So one part got caught in a tree, but the actual body actually went all the way through to the ground, and he was able to
both nose and the rocket.
So we were able to it was a brilliant system.
Nice. Okay.
But he had these monstrous big coils of must have been half-inch shot cord.
Something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't a very thick shot cord, but there was just so much of it.
The idea was when the parachute deployed, the rocket was just above the ground.
So it would just sit on the ground.
Just sit on the ground. Yes, that was
I've seen pictures, I don't know if it was from Mike Passaretti, but of a guy using a drill to wind up the shot cord.
That's Mike's. I've only ever seen one rocket done that way.
Wow, amazing. Okay, fantastic. Now, can we talk? I know we've already touched on this a little bit. How we got from, I guess, we've got a bunch of L3s in the club. We found a site. How do we go from there to the first Thunder in 2015? 2015? 2014?
Yeah, that was a couple of years later.
Yeah.
Don't know. Blake organised it. That was wholly Blake's baby.
And Blake had been a regular attendee at US launches.
Oh, okay.
And we knew it's not a very big pool of people, the rocketry community in Australia, so we knew everyone, and it didn't take much to get New South Wales and other organisations into the fold. There was a competing organisation called the Australian Rocketry Association.
Yep.
And
That guy's a bit of a cookie or something.
Don't do that, George. Don't do that.
No.
And bother when for the next 10
Oh.
years.
Yeah, I've got a continual problem with magpies.
Blake became well known with some people from Mythbusters.
Ah, okay.
Not the main guys, Adam and whatever his name is, but
Second
a
one.
lady, a girl.
Yes, I've seen
Yeah.
her. Is it Carly or something like that?
Kari,
yeah.
Kari? Yeah.
So he became quite good friends with her.
Okay.
So he did go over there a lot, and then Nick Loughlin went over a lot too.
Yep.
Because he could afford to go to America at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, I remember Nick Lottering was going for an altitude record was it Mad Max on an N5800?
That was a survival test.
Yep.
Because no one had survived the minimum diameter N5800.
Yep.
Ever. And he sort of took home the prize.
Easy.
It only just made.
Jeez, okay.
But the N58 minimum diameter is absolutely brutal. And all the previous attempts, the rockets disintegrated, the fins came off. And you couldn't use, he had to use he had some sort of brazed aluminium fins or something.
Yes, on the leading edge fins, yeah. I remember post that flight that he said a lot of the survival is based on the quality of the paintwork on the rocket. Yeah, he had like 2-pack paint or something like that. I remember that was one of his calls. So anyway.
But the carbon fibre and all that was too brutal for a minimum diameter. A small diameter would work.
Yep. So we're at Thunder 2015. I'm assuming both you guys launched rockets at that?
No, I probably dropped out of rocketry at that stage with family commitments and didn't resume.
Okay.
I was a bit burnt at that stage. I do understand the process. I've now been involved in rocketry from about 2006 to about 2014. I attended the launch, but I didn't. I came out for the day.
Yeah. Okay.
That was the previous launch out there. We must have gone there 3 times.
Yeah.
So getting back to carbon fibre, as the club progressed, Ashley Stonehouse turned up one day, and he had this carbon fibre tube, and I go, "Wow, how good's that?" He says, "I'll show you how to do it." So we organised a workshop at my house. And he showed us how to do
the rocket shed.
Yeah, we did all sorts of things there, including we did what's that relaunching wagon wheels into space.
Remember that,
So that was we made a transition section. You couldn't get them. Put them on a lathe and whatever I had. One of those roadside cones and all the rest. Anyway. So Ashley showed us how to do carbon fibre tubes, so we got pretty excited and we were doing that. And Nick Lottering turned up one day. He says, "Oh, where'd you get that?" I said, "Made it." He says, "How?" I said, "In the shed. Do you want to come and have a look?" He says, "I'd love to come in." So he went out there for half a day, showed him what to do, and after that, his rocketry just went into orbit.
Correct.
I have never seen anyone pick up stuff so quickly and improve on things so fast. And he improved on everything. It was unbelievable. I was a bit like, oh wow.
It was some of his builds I found amazing. Like with his sledgehammer and the fins, had the foam core and then the carbon fibre lap, and also his sub-minimum diameter O launch out at Westmo as well. That was pretty amazing. He just built the fin can that slid onto the motor case.
But that O motor was nowhere near as vicious as the N58.
Oh no. But
Yeah.
this was sub-minimum, I guess, right?
Yeah, which I thought was a great idea. But it was just how Nick Lottering's technical skills just took off. Unbelievable. Because before that he was fiddling around with phenolic and paper. And
Yeah, same as everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't believe how it took off.
I don't know why more people don't do. Well, I suppose you need to have big motor, an availability of big motors to be able to make it worth your while to invest in carbon fibre.
Yeah.
That's Well, that could be a 54mm motor. That would be a ripper.
So, yeah, I remember being impressed by your fiberglass rolling airframes.
Yeah.
So, how many of those do you think you did?
How many went through the carbon cooker? Or your...
Yeah, a lot.
Okay.
A lot.
What was the cardboard case that was made out of originally? You had a cardboard case.
When you say a cardboard
A
case,
cardboard case that we had the
that
air dryer
was
plugged into.
light plywood.
Light plywood, yeah.
Yeah.
MDF or something, was it? Yeah.
Light plywood or MDF, yeah, and it was heated by the heating element was a hair dryer.
Yep.
The cheap one from Woolworths.
How many tubes would it have done, George?
Oh, a lot, 100 maybe.
Wow.
But we used to make tube just so you'd have 3-inch tube on here.
Yeah.
And they'd either be carbon or a composite tube.
Yeah, we started doing. Yeah.
So,
the hair dryer, it used to get up to a temperature of 100 degrees C.
wow.
Because we had a thermometer in it, and I couldn't believe it. And they go for half an hour, or whatever it was. That hair dryer still works today.
Jeez.
And the plan was, if it died, you'd buy another one, but they were like $16 or something like that.
That's right. And
At Woolworths.
Put 2 or 3 in at once.
well, we only needed one.
Yeah.
And
That's amazing. Can you tell me a little bit about your lead into doing your L3? Why you wanted to do it, the planning for it? Was that your own airframes that you rolled for that rocket?
well, it wasn't. I bought a Wildman kit, Wildman Extreme.
Yep.
And it was mainly because Simon and Blake approached me and said it's about time you did L3 because I was doing L1s, L2s, a lot of L2s and L1s, and they said you should do it. So we went through the process. It took a while. I think you've got the proposal that I submitted because it's a big. Oh, you know what it's like.
Yep.
And then we went out to Westmar in 2014 or thereabouts, and it went, but it went. See, there were two. I'd done a bit of research. There were two schools of thoughts. One was make it heavy and make it low, so it didn't go too high. The vast majority of those failed, and the other one was go for it, go for a break. And this extreme wild was a bit over the top. It was just it was a hot rod.
Okay.
And it just blitzed. Went to about 13,000 feet.
Nice.
But the pressures were nothing like the big heavy rockets.
Yeah. Okay.
And at the same launch, I'm pretty sure, or that was the next Thunder Down Under, they had that big V2 that came from Victoria.
Yep.
That monster V2.
On an O25,000. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a
1-to-1 scale V2. Yeah.
It was.
Went to about 150 feet or
Yeah,
something.
so that's the opposite end of the spectrum where it's sort of slow, heavy, and low.
Yep.
It worked too. So they obviously had worked it out, but I figured that there was less that could go wrong if it went high, apart from losing it.
Yeah, true. What motor did you use?
It was just the smallest H I could get my hands on.
H? M?
Sorry, M. Smallest M, whatever that was.
Retract his L3, you did it on an H.
Yes. It was just,
12.
I don't know what it was, whatever they were.
I don't remember.
Whatever they were. It was what everyone,
2050.
whatever one, whatever.
1250, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's whatever. It was the smallest M you could get.
Yep.
And this was before, what was that other company that came along?
Cicerone.
Yeah.
Complex loads and complex fits.
Yes. Cicerone changed things totally.
Alrighty, I'm just going to have my second here to have a spiel and have like a 5 or 10 minute break. My earliest recollection of you guys, so this is probably dating back to about 2010. I'd done a lot of low power and I thought, okay, let's get this high power. I bought a kit I brought it up to launch the first time on a public launch, and which two smiling faces were waiting for me at the RSO tent? And George took one look at it and went, "Yeah, what are you using for retention?" Oh yeah, forgot about that. That was it. I wandered off. And I remember Len, probably the same year, I built a cluster, hype out cluster. And Len's, yeah, it's good to go. Took it out. And Len goes, "Why are you doing that in the B-pad with a complex rocket?" Let's go to see it. So that's my earlier memories of you guys. I appreciate all the comments and help that you give me.
Motor retention. I learned about motor retention the hard way.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they go big.
You recover the rocket, you go, where's the motor gone?
Still passes certification, doesn't it?
Oh no, it wouldn't. But this wasn't. This was smaller rockets.
You can't fly it here, but
If the motor doesn't come back.
All right, do you mind? I will talk to you about both of you about this. But do you want to talk to us about your return to Rocketry Land and joining the committee and future plans and launches?
Well, I had a pretty long absence from Rocketry, largely because my wife developed a terminal illness and I had to convert my house, and all of my activities were focused on my wife's looking after my wife. After a lengthy period, she finally passed. Took me a little while to get myself back together, but I eventually returned to Rocketry about 2 years ago.
Nice. Well, not nice, understandable, but it's good to have you back.
Yeah.
What are your plans, future plans for Rocketry?
Well, L2 for a start. And so there just always seems to be so much happening.
Yeah.
That,
Hard to get as much done as you want.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And George, I haven't seen you. Well, I haven't seen you recently, but I haven't seen you launching recently.
No, not since Thunder. And Thunder counts 2015, so that's 10 years ago. And that coincided with a big change in my life. And Thunder was right in the middle of moving or downsizing from the house to another place. And I had a whole lot of projects to do, which took a couple of years. And Rocketry took a back burner, and then Bruce come along. Well, Bruce has been around a fair while, of course.
Yep.
And he says, "Oh, let's go shooting."
Oh,
I go,
yeah.
"Oh, yeah, why not?" So we started.
He does the clay pigeon, is it?
Yeah,
Skeet.
Oh, whatever they call it, yeah. So we went out to Ripley every 2 or 3 weeks, for quite some time. But I don't know what happened. I saw Pete and Nick occasionally, and they have a good old chat. But yeah, just life moved on, and Rocketry was left in the distance or behind, and yeah.
So, George, what do you think happens to all of those Rocketeers who progress from L0 to L3 and vanish? Because that doesn't happen in golf, and it doesn't happen in shooting. Yeah. So, what do you think is the cause? I've often wondered about that myself.
Well, problem is there's nowhere to go, really. I mean, as you get to L3, then what? I mean, you can do it.
So is that a failing of the system, or is that a failing of the club? No. Should those people be mentoring L1s and 2s? And I think that does happen. You're a good example.
Yeah, that's right. But the goals change because to go on from L3, it starts to get expensive.
Well, there is no L4.
Well, it's experimental, but that's
we can't talk about that. No.
Well, that's a category with Triple E.
Yeah.
And it's beyond L3, so you've got to be L3 certified before you can go on there.
And then to partake in it, you've got to relocate to the US and launch in the US.
Anyway, bottom line is that hasn't happened in Australia, and there was no prospect of it happening because of the government regulations. So that was never an option, really. But even the upper levels of L3, so we're talking O-level motors, I mean, you can't shoot fire one every couple of weeks. for every month or two. I mean,
You have to mortgage your house.
it's just a totally different thing, and the costs they don't go up a bit; they go up exponentially. And L3 was like, I can't afford to keep doing this for very much longer. I did like between L1 and L2s, not big L2s.
So rather than
But then you sort of run out of sort of goals, really.
so rather than do end motor launches, I mean, I was pretty happy just doing L mode H, and you didn't think about, okay, let's just keep launching.
That's what I was doing.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's funky.
but yeah, it is. Yeah, it was sort of like once you've launched M motors, going back to little H motors, like yeah. And then I sort of needed goals, and things like electronics and. Who was that guy that came out from the States? He came out in a bus.
Lee Garvey. Lee Garvey?
Garbo.
B-Day Garvey.
B-Day.
I mean, all that was really exciting stuff. You know, what was the name of that?
Telemetron.
Telemetron. Yeah. I mean, that really kept me going for a bit. But in the end, it just started to get too expensive. But it was really other things came along. And, that happened to everyone, as you know, like Bruce and Alex. And
so, Matt, can we just turn this around a little bit and just ask you what you think the solution to keeping all these highly qualified people in rocketry longer might be?
So, I think, as George said, L3 is held up to be this ultimate
zenith.
Yeah. So, a lot of people focus on L3 and getting the L3 and doing what it takes to get there. Once you've got your L3, then you think, back in 10 years ago, I just spent $500 on one motor. And I also spent 6 months, 8 months building this rocket. So it becomes then, what do I do next?
And if you take a break from for more than 12 months, you have to go through the whole process again to requalify, to buy the next motor.
Yes. And for me to keep interested, buying an M-motor these days is just totally out of the question for me. So I got into cluster motors, cluster rockets. So I launched a few times on 3 H's, 3 I's. And I also...
But that's still an expensive proposition.
Yeah. But it's like 3 times... Back then, it was 3 times $60. It's a lot cheaper than $500. Even just building big rockets, I built a 3-motor 75mm cluster rocket, which I know I'll never launch. That's all right. And for me these days, I do things other than launch rockets. I come along to social, things are going smoothly, and talk to people, and evangelize a bit, just try and be involved. I mean, I've been involved in rockets in one form or another for over 40 years.
When's the last time you launched a rocket?
Be good, at least 3 or 4 years ago. Oh, no. I probably have launched once in the last 3 years, and that would have been an E-motor. I built a plank rocket, so it was just a square piece of wood on top of a motor. That was a good few years ago now.
Because I think you'd probably find that if we talk to Dave Cousins, David Boyd, George, it's a very similar story. You get involved, it becomes a social structure for rocketry, as opposed to where if you're shooting a rifle, each week you're shooting a rifle and you're paying loosely the same amount per round, and you're advancing your skills. So you get people who are 80 years of age and still target shooting. Quite bad.
Sorry, keep going, Lee.
Yeah, no. So I just wondering, I cannot see how a mechanism like that would work within rocketry. But you reach apogee at about level 3, and that's it.
Yeah. As I said, what I found, I used to do different things. Try with baffle ejection, so you don't need wadding, just different things, and splitting apart, and minimum diameter and clusters and all that sort of thing. One thing I found to keep my interest as well was I found it's a lot of work. Let's say I want to do an M motor launch. Prepping that av bay is a lot of work. Prepping the rocket is a lot of work.
Half a day.
Yeah, at least. But if I do a lower mid power, I'm just going to put the motor in, put some wadding. So
and you can be pre-prepared for smaller L1s,
Mm.
particularly L1s,
Yeah.
and G motors and so on. Yeah.
So I think the idea is new challenges.
Mm.
That's right.
Whether that's bigger motors or small motors.
I see
or
that Tim Van
shapes.
Milligan, who's probably been in
Yeah.
rocketry longer than all of us combined,
Yeah.
has gone to the other extreme.
Yep.
And he's going minimal weight. And
Okay,
he's building
okay.
fiberglass airframes that are basically built out of tissue paper.
Wow.
That's
Okay.
been resined,
Okay.
and that's his current pursuit.
Yeah.
So that's possibly his way of keeping
What's he launching them on?
double A's and triple A's.
Yeah, he was non-high powered rocketry for a very long time.
Yeah. It's certainly not high powered. It's like minimal thrust.
Yeah.
Who was that guy? There was a guy out there that just used to launch A motors, and he got a record.
I can see his face.
Yeah.
I can see his face.
He
He wrote articles for the newsletter,
Mm.
and he like Grasshopper and these sort of things were the name of his rocket. He just did like an A8, but it was just perfectly crafted and smooth, and his launch lugs were all. I can see his face, but I can't think of the name. Think of it later. All right, that's enough about me. And we talked about brain drain solutions. Okay, finally, the future. What do you see as the future of QRS and rocketry and yourselves overlapping with that? We've seen you at a launch already this year.
That was that this year or last year? Last year.
Oh, it was last year. Okay.
Yeah, look, Len's sort of coming back into it, and we are thinking of launching. So my role in the future will be
Ground support for.
ground team support for Len,
Okay.
and I look forward to that. But probably launching. See, at the end of the day, when you get up to L3 and beyond, you don't launching a rocket's just whatever.
Yeah.
And I get
It's all about the prepping of the rocket.
and it is
Designing.
I would get more out of assisting Len
Yep.
and mentoring Len and making and more encouraging him so he doesn't sort of lose interest.
Yep.
So
I have a grasshopper mind, so it's very easy to get distracted along the way.
Jump
With
somewhere.
variety of project.
So that was my.
We're going to fly drones this afternoon, George.
Okay. I was hoping Len I could help Len. Did you have to do an L1 still?
I've got to do everything again, George.
Are you still a member of Tripoli? Could you maintain yours?
No,
Okay.
in the end, I didn't.
Okay, so you have lost all your certifications as well.
The last one I had, that L3 there,
Yeah.
20, end of 20, that's 11 years ago,
Wow, okay.
10 years ago. Yeah.
All right, so there's a good challenge for you. Maybe like L1, L2, and L3 in one day.
That is not a challenge I would readily go into. And my challenge would be because I assisted you for the L2 out at Williams, and that went well.
Yep,
And
Bruce
really well.
and Shirley, and we'll win the health and recovery to get it all.
Yeah. So the next one, obviously you've got to redo those, but then you've got to do an L3. That's a big.
And then you leave rocketry.
I don't know what you're going to do.
Well,
This could be a 10-year plan.
It could be.
So
At the
let's-
rate I'm doing L1, yes, that could be maybe longer.
So let's take L3 out of the picture. If you did an L1 and L2, we could have you as an RSO and an LCO, all those sort of things. And then, so you're involved, you're contributing, helping people.
That brings on another interesting topic. I was looking at the LTO and RSO roster yesterday. Thank you very much for sending those through to me. But I did see the people who were on that list, and I had some reservations that some of those people there may not have been, what I considered,
Scratching.
So I'm just a bit concerned that there was no real experience, and even for the October Skies launch, there's only one experienced person I saw on that list, and that was Warren.
Change it all around.
And
I just grabbed the list of these
Yeah,
certs
yeah.
and put them in. So
And I'm not saying that those people, shouldn't have been, on the list, because how else they're qualified,
yeah,
which means they're insured.
Yeah.
The launch is insured, but maybe there should have been, maybe there is a role for someone like George who knows what a fin fillet looks like,
Yep.
who knows what a,
yeah, absolutely.
centre of gravity, to basically not to sign the launch card as the RSO, but to help the RSO learn to go through the inspection process.
Yep.
And or to like the launch gear has all changed. Probably since I've written to it, we've had multiple changes. I think since I was last LCO, but for someone just to look at being able to be there and address all the issues, etc.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely.
With LCO, so you've got not a person signing the card as LCO.
Yeah.
Because
It needs his L2 to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You need your L2 to do that.
Something like a pad manager.
Yeah, and I think we could call, and that's just someone who's going to mentor LCOs and RSOs, and that could be Matt, that could be anyone, that could be anyone who's had a reasonable amount of experience. I think when we were at the last prefecture meeting, they were talking about how long they take to bring a RSO on board, and to make sure they've got enough experience. They haven't just got their L2; they've got their experience of doing a rocket inspection.
Yep.
And you can't get that quickly. You don't do your L2 and suddenly have that
the next day.
the next day.
Yeah, I mean that's a kind of a bit of a hole in our process at the moment. So I'm going to try and review again the LCO RSO training, and maybe this time we'll be doing an in-person course, rather than let it drag on a bit longer.
So what would you think, George, would be the most important things that you would, as a former RSO, and as an L3, what would you look for in someone who brings to you their first cardboard rocket, their first L1 rocket, or their first L2 rocket? What would you be looking at?
Well, that's the basics. So,
fin attachment, launch lug placement.
just basics. Yeah. And centre of gravity, centre of pressure.
Thrust to weight.
Thrust and weight.
With all those.
Could we have George run that training, the RSO training?
George, do it. I'd attend.
I don't know if I would, but...
No. Who knows? It's been over 10 years, so it would take a fair bit of brushing up to try and bring things back to mind. But there's people out there like who have you got out there that's L3? Is Warren McKay still around?
And he's the RSO for.
Yeah, he might be there.
Yeah, I thought about giving him a call. I thought if I gave him enough advance warning, he might be there. But he has other projects, and that's the story of rocket.
Well, my list here. This is probably not everyone. I got George.
Are you talking about previous L3s?
L3s. George, Dean.
Yeah.
Bruce? Is Bruce?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, he was.
He lives in Mauritius.
Yeah.
And he probably still, possibly, who knows? I haven't
A
seen.
special launch, a special occasion, you might get him along.
Well, he's about to retire from the regulatory process.
How close is he?
I thought he would have done it by now. And then he was talking. Then it was going to be last year, and then Then he went over to Europe for 2 months. Because you remember Alex?
Yep.
Yeah, he got married in Ireland.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I was trying to call him.
Hey?
That's when I was trying to call him late last year about certifications. That was always.
Yeah. And then he was going to retire at end of June this year. I haven't spoken to him. So I don't know whether he has or he hasn't, but it's very close.
You mean June, a month ago?
Yes. Yeah.
That June.
One on here is still active is Andrew Surtees. He's probably the only, other than myself, he's probably the only active L3.
Phil Entwistle, did he?
Not L2.
L2, yeah. And so he's still there as far as I know.
Yeah, he'll spend maybe half the day there doing RSO work.
Yeah.
That's
Sorry, who was that?
Phil.
Oh, Phil. Yeah.
Oh, and Mike Ritter. You don't see Mike Ritter?
Oh,
I see his membership go through every 12 months, but I think I've seen him once in the last 2 years.
so yeah, he hear from him like once every 2 years. After very, I think the last thing was I didn't get a membership reminder, renewal reminder. So,
It gets drawn out of his membership automatically.
Yeah.
And his credit card automatically, which is a wonderful thing for the club from a club point of view.
Well, there was a guy there that worked in electronics.
Jamie Anderson.
No. But he only did smallish rockets, and I don't know what happened. He was really, really smart.
Was he the bloke who put the Yagi antenna into his hat, and it was big, and it was across the brim of his hat, back brim, two element Yagi, and whenever he turned his head, it would go beep 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 beep, and he could just look like the rockets over there.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
Some eccentric members there.
creative, right?
Creative.
Yeah.
This guy was absolutely brilliant. Scientifically speaking.
Worked out at Stafford, and he worked for a radio company.
Is
radio
under a
company.
microscope, soldering under a microscope. What his day job was.
I forget his name now. That many people.
Yeah.
So, anything else you guys want to talk about? Anything else in the future? Did you see the QRS or Rocketry land, or future plans for yourself?
Well, keeping it confined to rocketry, I am I must admit to being a little concerned about where we go with regard to motors, with regard where we go to the availability of motors, whether we need to move away from solid propellants to hybrid motors. Those are things that are
nitrous.
So whether we have to go down that, our track record has not been real good. Maybe we need a good mentor for hybrids. I don't know how that's gone at the moment. There've been more failures, and maybe that is the way that hybrids run.
I know nothing about hybrids, but I know that one of the guys in the club, Matt Rowley, is quite passionate. I'm not going to say he's the most experienced person in the country or anything, but he does seem to know.
I wonder how we elevate our level of experience in that from a club, from an organisational standpoint.
We get more people doing it, which we've got.
And that seems to be, And
does the club have any nitrous equipment?
We've offered to buy all the ground equipment for the people doing hybrids, and I just need to know the list of what they want, what they need, and we'll get that and provide it. What's his name?
I wonder if we should contact someone like Dave Boyd and ask them what do we need, rather than just have a general wish list and say, how do we progress this list? How do we stage this? Because it's not cheap.
Matt Rowley knows what we need. He just hasn't got to the point of sourcing it all, I think. Because I've seen price lists and stuff on it, but I've never seen, okay, we're ready to go and buy all this. I'm able to talk to Dave. I've got to talk to Dave more about other things. And Dave Skinner is actually is nearly finished building the electronics, the launch control system.
Venting it.
Was that Ratworks that used to provide?
Used to be,
RCS, is it now?
Now, RCS is rocketry component.
I know
They have a hybrid as well.
They probably did.
But they'd only have grains. And you can cast and make your own. If you've got a casting cube, you can make all your own grains out of paraffin. Okay. They don't need to be anything greater than wax, candle wax. Wow. Essentially, they normally stick something in them like a carbon black.
Wow, amazing.
And you can
some colouring dye.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I think the black colouring serves as some sort of thermal purpose. I'm not sure what. Just from looking at who's at Tech Ingredients YouTube.
But there is a difference between what's the other term for nitrous? Because it's not hybrid. Hybrid hybrid tribrids.
Don't they have alcohol in tribrids?
Tribrids have got solid, liquid, and gas.
Yep.
That's what makes it a tribrid.
Yep. To my recollection, there's only been one tribrid launch. That's
It is phenomenal.
That was Simon Lemke,
yeah.
and he launched at least 3 that I remember.
There you go. Okay.
The first one was just sensational.
And it's incredible noise.
It's like a jet engine. Literally,
Wow.
it was like a jet engine.
The turbine running up.
It was subsequent, but that's because of the part that went over like that.
Mm.
The next 2 went that way, and it wasn't quite the same sound.
Okay. Any other notable launches? That's obviously quite a memorable one, but over the last 20 years or so, any other launches stand out? Projects or?
There's been a few that we've seen people launch these and put the motors in the wrong way around. We saw one very close hand, didn't we, George?
It landed at our feet.
We were standing this far apart,
Yeah.
and a rocket went up, and we won't name the name.
No,
It went up, and it had instead of having the
it's separated.
it had the ejection motor
Yeah.
in the bottom, not in the top.
Yeah.
And so it went up, reached apogee, tilted over, then the next motor fired and came right down and landed in the ground between where George and I are standing.
Did you hear something, Len?
We were watching actually. I was like, "What happened so quickly?"
There was no time to move. We were standing this far apart. There was no time to move.
Couldn't move. Couldn't do anything. It was just boom.
These things are lawn dart in the ground between us.
It was like someone should have checked the motors.
There's the RSA.
Well, they don't. People tend to assume that you've come there with your rocket. They'll be looking for centre of pressure and centre of gravity, and that's about it.
The person involved says, "I've never had a problem with that happening before," and I wasn't there, so I don't know who it was.
Well, we were standing at the crowd.
We were just spectators, and anyway.
William Brian Dixon had that problem.
Certainly Brian Dixon. We had a look and go, wrong way around.
Didn't take long to diagnose.
No.
Any other launches stick out?
Well, that big V2 out at Western, that was sensational. Most of the big L3 launches were pretty impressive.
Do you remember our Queen when we went down to Blake's place when Blake was living at Coomera?
Yes.
And we rolled that rocket down there, and then we took it off to Western Australia with it. Yeah. And then we had that drag race with the Western Australians.
I was never a fan of drag race. I thought it was pretty stupid.
Is this where they kind of spike their igniter or something?
Well, people do all sorts of things to try and get there.
I don't know what the point of the drag race was anyway.
Yeah.
It was state of origin for what it was.
But it was Western Australia. Who knows what the point of it was, but yes, our rocket didn't go that well, and their rocket went real well.
Yeah, I think it was just ours came down into a tree, this gum tree, and they climbed this gum tree. Well, it wasn't a really big tree, but it came right down in the centre of this tree.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Now, I couldn't help but notice you each got some hardware here. Do you want to take turns holding it up and stepping us through what recognitions are?
1 year after I joined, so in 2008, Ryan was the treasurer. Ryan
McDonald.
Yes. He announced he wasn't going to be the treasurer anymore, and everyone. We were doing a launch out at West, the Logan River somewhere, some school. Some school. And Ryan said, "Oh, I'm not doing treasurer I'm not doing the committee or whatever." And everyone looked at me and says, "Oh, you can be treasurer."
Nice.
Okay, yeah, that's good. I was working across the road from the bank that it was what was it? where the bank is.
Heritage.
Heritage, that's it. Yeah, Heritage. Yeah. So Monday morning, I just go over there and deposit all the money.
Nice.
So that's what that is.
Very nice.
After 6 years of doing that, and that was about the point that things started changing in my life, and so I didn't stand for treasurer anymore after that.
So how many years did you do as treasurer? 6. Because you've been involved in 2007, December 2007.
Well, yeah.
Yourself and Mike Britton joined on the same day, wasn't it?
I think it was. Yeah, his was one number different to mine, whatever that number was. Yeah. So yeah, I did that for 6 years. And we used to have the first time we had a committee meeting at our place, my place. My wife did a really big spread, which is the first time anything like that had happened, and of course it stuck for as long as I can remember, and probably still to this day. You know, you don't.
Committee meetings are a little infrequent, and we often do them on site or on Teams or Zoom or something like that.
A big spread.
What's that?
I still have a big spread.
Yeah. We'll do them at Glenn's in future. Yeah.
Right here, be good. Yeah.
And how many cards have you got there?
Well, they're not all of them, but
are they just QRS or is it triple as well?
Well, see, don't forget, we didn't have cards to start with. I forget what we had.
And we had laminated cards.
That's the one, like paper laminated. Yeah.
So, I'll leave it. Spaces. Yeah, that was the last. I don't know what that was. Queensland Rocketry, I think. Because at one point it was.
That's a much younger looking George.
Sure. No.
Years are unkind to us, aren't they?
Doesn't look like his age at all.
See, these are the Queensland Rocketry. That's the AMRS. These are Triple E. Yeah. That was towards the end. This is obviously the first one. That was probably. Where did they? I don't know. I don't know if we had this one here. It was pre-high powered.
Yep.
I don't know if this was the club's one or when do you reckon we got the car?
That was probably. I would have thought 2012 was a long time after we went to. Peter Nickwood was the membership officer.
Yes. And he approached me and said, "We want a card printer." I go, "How much does that cost?" Yeah, a couple of grand, whatever. He said, "Really worthwhile?" Probably would be.
Guess where it is now?
Probably still at his place.
No, it's good. Okay. I've been trying to get the software on it all night.
No luck.
It's a complex process.
Okay.
It's a complex process, and I'm trying to load a 30-day trial just to make sure that it's still all working. I was able to do a test print of the card, and it appears to be fully functional.
Wow, great work.
Didn't hang the machine, and I've just got to get the software that you use to create the whole background running, and that's up.
So where do you think that came from?
That was your initial one when you first got your.
Yeah, but where did the card come from?
Triple E did. That would have come
from America.
From America. They used to have them in the front of the kits.
Okay, I just wondered whether.
And what I did think is interesting here, George, if you look at your George, that's your Triple E card. At some stage, we've gone to AMRS cards. So did QRS move away from Triple E?
Yes.
So we would have lost our prefecture?
No, we've still got the prefecture. I mean, maintaining the prefecture is only like $10 a year or something like that. So the prefecture is still the same as it was.
Still the same.
But yeah, because there's some people as well in the club that stayed with Tripoli. But yeah, AMRS I don't know the thoughts behind it. I wasn't involved.
Yeah, bugger off. Nothing for you, bud. So that's a lot later than that. That's 2010. This is 2016.
Yeah, so AMRS, that was... Yeah,
that all happened in that period that I was not in the club,
okay.
so I was
Yeah, like
unsure as to what happened.
everyone moved across to AMRS. We got our insurance through AMRS, and then a bunch of fires went through the country, and then a bunch of floods went through the country. And for AMRS to keep providing insurance, was going to push membership up to like $500 a person. So that was when
insurance has always been an interesting issue.
Yeah. That was when we moved back to Tripoli, and Tripoli, thankfully, I think recognised you could transfer your AMRS cert to Tripoli. Thankfully.
Yeah. When we were first incorporated, we had to get $250,000 public liability.
Yep.
So I started hunting around to try and get public liability insurance. And you'd ring up a company and say, I need to get a public liability insurance for a club, non-profit organisation. What do you do? And they would come back and they'd come back with a calculated premium based on the fact that we were launching rockets, and they'd come back with a premium of $18,000 per annum.
Yep.
And they were imagining something akin to, shuttle type disasters and things of that nature. So we had a lot of trouble getting insurance initially, and we ended up getting it at a relatively reasonable price based on the fact that it was model rocketry, not high-powered rocketry.
Yep.
And I don't know if they fully understood what model rocketry was. They thought we made models of rockets.
And it didn't fly.
That didn't fly, but that was a little bit of an issue, I suppose. But I remember at one stage we were paying insurance on a month-by-month basis, and we knew that we had to get like 3 or 4 members each month, or we could not afford the insurance for the subsequent month. And, and that was I think that was very stressful for Ryan McDonald, who was the treasurer at the time, to make sure we had enough to cover our outgoings.
That was 2007.
About 2007.
Going into 2008, when I took over, that's right. You had to chase around. You had to collect the money at every launch. So you had to go around and
we started doing sausage sizzles and all sorts of things. And then we found that eventually we could, sausage sizzles and donations at the gate were sort of covering insurance costs.
Then we had public launches. Now, there was one around about the time of the anniversary of the moon landing. There were thousands of people turned up.
2,000. We had no idea of the exact number, but we had them. They were parked right up to the top of the far hill, up near where the road goes in for the wastewater now, and both sides of the road.
You mean the main road, right up the top of the hill? Just a suited grave, basically.
So my very first launch, that may have been it.
Yeah.
And I remember parking up near the Christopher's house, right up the top of the road there, and having to walk all the way down the road to get in, and it was just jam-packed. I thought, is it like this every month?
Well, sort of, not every month, but public launches. That was about 3 a year, wasn't it?
Dollar coin donation to get in, and gold coin donation to get in the gate. And that was, and then sausage sizzle, we used to run out of people to serve sausages.
And run out of sausages too.
And Len is organising the one this year.
Is it? Well, that's at Cobra Skies, isn't it?
Cobra Skies,
It's 2 months away.
So it's interesting. I didn't consider adding public launches to the list of items. When did they start? And
they were every second.
Every second launch.
Oh wow! Okay.
Which meant anything was highly experimental. And when I say experimental, something you weren't sure of, streamer recoveries or whatever, didn't want to.
They were alternative launches.
They were private launches.
Okay.
Public launches where come set up on the flight line and bring your deck chair and.
Okay.
So I went to a launch in December.
And that's what you'd have seen in the Courier Mail advertising it.
That's right.
Advertising.
And then the next month, in January, it's going to be a non-public launch.
Yeah.
I sort of found out. I came along, and I found out that most of the people weren't happy about it.
Yeah.
Who was the other guy that came along as well? Probably someone else. He joined about the same time, could have been Mike Ritter or whatever. Anyway, some of the older people weren't particularly thrilled that a new member, because I just joined, was coming along to a non-public launch.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And you're still a member of the club, and
Well, I just joined.
Yeah.
Yeah, they. Anyway, after a while, it didn't take long, and they got used to me being there because I never missed. And
one of the things I always felt was interesting was that there was this initial reluctance by club members. Everyone wants to fly rockets. And that probably still the case. Everyone wants to fly a rocket, but no one wants to be the RSO. And no one wants to be the LCA.
Yep.
And I don't know how I ever got given the microphone, because I have one of the worst voices for radio or for there. But you'd end up just talking to yourself. You realise that most people weren't listening anyway.
Yeah.
And you just talk for the sake of talking. And I did LCO from about 2007, must have been to almost 2013. And I could never get anyone to come and give me a couple of people came and would occasionally volunteer to hop on the end of the microphone because I don't know what to say, And it wasn't and our launch infrastructure at that point in time was pretty simple.
Yeah.
A battery and a switch. And
that did progress quite a bit over the years.
Yeah, it has, hasn't it?
Yeah. Like up until 2015.
We had auto electricians building it and all sorts of
stuff. Yeah.
And then I think Brian Dixon used to be the RSO, and he was there for probably 2007 to quite late in the piece.
He came out to Thunder, and we hadn't seen him for a couple of years, and he brought his two boys out.
Yeah, they'd have been men by that time. Yeah.
No, they were teenagers.
Yeah.
And we hadn't seen Brian for a couple of years. But he was sort of the brains of the show, really, in the early days.
Okay.
Because Blake was there when I first started. Blake launched this rocket, and then he joined the army and trained as a helicopter pilot.
Yep.
So we didn't see Blake at all for quite a few years.
Ah, okay.
He was still involved in importing motors.
Yep. So
we'd go around to his place occasionally and stack up on motors, and Peter Nicklick used to come to launches. But we didn't see Blake because he was off with the army.
Wow.
But then he turned up again.
Yeah, I think his stint with the army ended abruptly.
Came to an end.
He was quite old. He was an older person going into it. He was probably 23, 25.
Yeah.
And I think he had spent too many years outside of the armed forces to adapt, to be flexible enough.
To their culture.
Yeah, to their culture.
Len, do you want to show us what you've got there as well?
Okay. In 2012, I was made a life member of the club, and and not to say beyond that, I was sort of, it was just part of it. I probably, after being made a life member, I was probably 2 or 3 years after this, I had ceased coming to launches, just because of my personal circumstances.
But now you're back.
Now I'm back.
Yes. Awesome. So, how did this get presented? Was that a launch day, or was that a?
I forget now. I think it was an AGM, was it?
No, it's a launch day.
A launch day. Yeah.
Because the first one was Blake. And I think you said that it was assumed by the committee that
we weren't going to see Blake.
We weren't going to see him again
because he joined the army, and we thought, well, he'll never be back.
He'll have a career in the army.
I'm trying to think who was next. Army.
Don't know.
Then myself and Peter Nicklick got that on the same day. And then I think Warren.
I don't know who else after that.
I think
Warren's about 5 years ago.
Yeah, 5 years ago. I think he's the last life member.
Yeah, okay.
I have been in organisations where almost every member of the committee is a life member, and I don't know that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, all life members don't have to pay membership fees.
Well, on
Cost
small
the club-
organisations
cost the
with
club too
diminishing basis, yeah. So when's Matt's like membership coming up? It should be. It should be. The services you've provided to Rocketry are immense.
The difference is no one really cares what my contribution's been, mate.
Yeah.
Whereas you guys are the founding days, the early days. Yeah, I don't know. There's
But you've
actually,
kept it going. You've kept
Yeah,
it. you know.
kept the flame burning,
Yeah.
which could have gone out altogether.
yeah, we've got a policy there in Mega somewhere, we've got nominations and stuff. But yeah, look, yeah, I'll be there for a while yet,
I would have
and I
thought,
hope you two guys will be there with me.
I would have thought you sort of need to get the club sort of more energised, and then it would be,
Yeah,
and
look,
then it would be, you know, when you can hand the baton over to someone new. That's sort of when you'd be thinking, well, this guy's been doing it for 10 years or whatever, and
he's burnt out.
certainly,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, clearly, you can edit out of this what you wish to edit out
Yeah.
of this. But probably at some stage we need to have a discussion about what we do moving forward.
Long term.
Really,
Succession plan.
I've spoken to. So for me, the club has, I guess, stagnated a bit, and there's reasons for that. Primarily amongst
People
those-
that don't clubs that can't launch
yeah,
don't live long.
primarily motor availability is one thing that's hurt us, and lack of a high altitude site is another thing. So I originally planned to try and resolve those, then move on. But not resolved yet, but I think we're getting close enough. And I've spoken to someone in the committee about taking over, but he expressed zero interest. so it's getting someone that's younger than me that who still has a bit of energy and enthusiasm.
That's
One thing,
important.
one thing that Dave Boyd said was the president, I think, of VRA is a student. So
Yeah.
someone like that would be good, but then we don't have students kind of attending regularly. When you have a look at how much energy Takia has, their drive and knowledge of all the latest stuff, so someone like that would be good. But we'll see how we go.
Excuse me, George, that licorice has got me. That's all right.
It's okay, thank you. So that's my thinking at this point in time. Why not leave it better than what I arrived at? Now, that's something we touched on a lot earlier. It's I guess a bit of a side topic, but something I'd forgotten about as well. Hobby One. Now, I first started when that was Gabba Hobbies, I think it was called. So I don't know if you guys had ever visited there at that time, and if so, or if not, what are your, I guess, memories of those days?
Wasn't our Hobby One in Carindale?
Yeah, out that One Creek Road.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah.
Was it
And we had
Green Meadow and Creek?
We had a recruiting day there a number of years ago.
Yep.
And they were quite supportive. Paul Kleitchen no longer we replaced his pamphlets.
Yeah, I've seen the photo. But Hobby One is Gabba Hobbies, so they moved from full of Gabba to Green Meadow and Creek.
Yeah, and we that's where we met Cart for the first time.
Yep.
And so that's when I first recall Cart coming along, and we had a 2 or 3 hour stint there from Saturday at midday to whenever they closed, and I think Cart came out and spoke to us for almost that entire length of time.
Wow. Yep.
So we've had a and all of a sudden I think there was a big issue with regard to they were getting their motors from Dawn Trading and their suppliers from Dawn Trading. And there was a big fallout with ARA. And
do I remember correctly, when you bought a pack of motors, you had to sign a form?
Any motor, even A's.
A Hobby One, I think, traditionally would have on hand black powder motors up to. I don't even think they had E's. I think the D's were probably the larger ones that they would have, and you had to get anything in from overseas or from who was the company? It might have been Dawn Trading.
I thought it was Dawn Trading.
Yeah, Dawn Trading. You could order direct from them. They were expensive, but nowhere near as expensive as what they were. I think Blake had bought in a container load of motors, and that made the availability of low powered motors a lot easier. All that helped.
but also put a dent in the business of Hobby One too.
Yeah, they did
Big
not.
dip.
Yeah,
So they've relocated and renamed a couple of times, I think.
Oh, that happens with many companies. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been there for a long time. So. And I think Dawn Trading was bought by Hobbies Australia as well. So
Oh,
they're kind of
yeah.
around in some form.
And they had the same problem when Blake started bringing in large quantities of motors. It affected everyone else that was importing motors.
Yep.
I think no one truly appreciates how small the rocketry community in Australia is, and it's probably ever likely to be.
Yep.
You know, when you see people like Aerotech move away from, you know, hobby motors and they sell to, you know, government contractors, etc.
Yep.
You know, that's in the US.
And Cesaroni particularly.
Yeah, Cicerone.
I don't know.
Not even wanting to bring motors into Australia.
I don't even know if they're manufacturing motors for the hobby market anymore. I don't know. Certainly the guys at Endeavour Aerospace don't expect CTI deliveries at the time. So I'm not sure why that is.
Yeah, so you hear all these rumours on forums and other sort of discussions about, you know, Endeavour's going to be bringing back Cicerone, but no one probably told Endeavour.
But even the people in Australia possibly planning on manufacturing propellant will be using Aerotech hardware.
That makes sense.
So what is there that big a difference between Aerotech and CTI, or is it the fact that those black cases or whatever on the CTI difficult to manufacture?
No, Cesaroni motors were way easier to operate.
Yeah.
To assemble and operate, as you would know.
You used to almost need a degree to assemble an Aerotech motor and have it not fail. You know, get your O-rings round the wrong way.
To give you an idea, Alex put together an Aerotech motor, but he didn't understand he had different size O-rings at the front and the back.
Yes.
And one was 3/16 and one was an 8, whatever it was. But he didn't know what that meant, so he had them back to front. So then it became a Roman candle. It was very spectacular, but the rocket didn't lift off at all.
Unbelievable, yeah. I definitely remember those days.
I tried to contact just about October Sky to see if he, want to come along,
That was his baby.
See a future event.
That was his.
And I had to use Ari to contact Homer Hickam for us, and he had no interest. Well, he said he was just too busy.
Well,
so I've written to Homer. I haven't got a response back as yet, but I've just asked if he would hop on the camera.
Yep.
And just say a few words that we could just use,
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Just even if it's only 2 minutes, and even if it's only an audio recording, we could dig up a picture of Homer and just put a voice behind it. He doesn't have to appear on camera.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
The other person in the meeting out at Thunder was Crazy Jim.
No.
Crazy Jim Hendrickson. I don't know if do you remember him? Do you remember him? You spoke to him? He's got just the charisma and energy is just unbelievable. But I'd sort of read about him, and he was in partnership. Who's that guy that does Extreme Wildman? Or Wildman Rockets?
Yeah.
He's sort of very much associated with that guy. Apparently he's even wilder than Crazy Jim.
Okay.
But the whole philosophy of the Wildman Rockets is over the top.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Okay, what else do you want to talk about?
Yeah, Ari is really in all the years I was doing rocketry, Ari was the charismatic figurehead. Everyone would know that. No, he was always doing. He had so much media happening. The media loved him, and it's hard to imagine anyone.
You only have to have a look at the website, and you only have to see the media clips that are on the website. And Ari's face, Ari's face, Ari's face.
On everyone.
Totally wild and the newspaper articles.
Yeah.
Well, it started in the very early days. The media loved him, and it's just a media personality.
So how do we get him back in the club?
That would be hard.
I don't know.
Yeah, he is hemmed in with his daughter.
Yep.
Get him and his daughter, but his daughter is very into
Ballet.
girly type things. So,
Ballet, not rocketry.
I met his other daughter for the first time.
Montana.
Montana, that's it. Maybe 6 months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, something like that.
Their birthday is the same day as mine.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you go. Weird.
Crazy. Crazy.
What else?
And you've still got contact with Blake.
Yes and no. Like I've still got his phone number, but he's super busy.
You talk to him from time to time.
From time to time, but yeah, like you can understand his focus is on Black Sky.
What does that do?
Oh, is he another casualty of the level 3 syndrome?
I don't think so. It's more just, I think, casualty of starting his own international business.
Moving on from
taking the next step up. Yeah,
and that's really where do you go from level 3?
So I
does that mean you're going to start your own aerospace company, George?
Yeah.
What about you, Matt?
Not anytime soon.
So so I don't know what's happened to Blake, except I know. You probably know more about him than what I do.
Honestly,
what exactly is the company that he's got do?
I wouldn't know 1% of what they do.
Does he have employees?
He has a bunch, these stacks of employees, and I know that he does manufacture propellant and manufactures a lot of propellant. But I'm sure he has a lot of other irons in the fire as well that I know nothing about. But yeah, he's got investors. He's continually traveling to Europe and the US, doing all that sort of stuff. But honestly don't know.
So there was a launch recently up north. When I say recently,
2 days ago, Gilmore Aerospace.
Was that Gilmore's? Was they?
They had a failure. They had a failure yesterday or the day before?
Yesterday.
So they were they on the Gold Coast?
Yes, I think they still have the facility down there, but that's the launch site up there. So the latest launch, it was in the air for 14 seconds. It just cleared the launch tower.
And was it a solid or a liquid fuel?
I don't know. No. I think it was hybrid.
Oh, right.
I think it was hybrid. Yeah. I think they've got 4 hybrid motors, and it's a 3-stage. So
wow. I watched it, and it just didn't go well from the start. Yeah. They were happy because it was up to 5 seconds, which is longer than anyone else.
They seem to get a lot of media attention for some reason. I'm not sure why.
Probably in Southeast Queensland they might, because how many other big rocket launches do you have? Maybe we could have one in October.
Yeah, never know. Let's announce a space shot.
Now, what I did notice when they actually had the launch the other day, they stole our slogan.
Oh, really?
They did. One of the stations I was watching it on, and they said, Gilmore Aerospace, where the sky is not the limit, it's just the beginning.
Wow.
And that's word for word after something that we penned for our site. So they'd obviously been to our site.
Did we copyright that?
No, we didn't. Well, I don't know. I'll have to have a look, because I've given up putting copyright notices on sites years ago. And because that was what we were going to, I was talking with Takeo, and that was what we were going to, basically was going to be the whole theme of October skies. The sky is not the limit, it's only the beginning.
Yeah, I haven't checked. I know, I know Rocket Labs and Black Sky Industries have got QRS, current or former QRS members as employees, but I don't know about Gilmore Space. I haven't checked.
Yeah,
unlikely. So who was that African?
Jamie Anderson. And he was well known. He'd been in Victoria. He knows David Boyd. He knew PK. He knew, you know, and it was great.
The
And
last
mastergy
time,
between him and PK.
yeah, the last I heard was he sort of got associated with those, Stonehouse and someone else, and they were going out in the Darling Downs and launching hybrids, and he was involved in that. So
they used the 7,000 foot launch site at Melbourne. So I was talking about that.
do you remember? You probably remember. We had a ceiling of 7,500 feet at West at Cedar Grove briefly.
No, it must have been the time that
we had it briefly. It went from 5,000 to 7,500.
Because the jet line above it is 7,500, and we were supposed to keep 1,000 foot separation.
Yeah, I don't know how it happened, but we did get that. Did get that wave. It didn't last long, and I don't think
someone would have noticed. The planes land every day. It's the approach path.
The other issue was the airspace cylinder, and it would have been within that space. It's from 7,500 would be houses up the hill. And I remember thinking at the time, this might have been an anomaly, and it didn't last very long, and it dropped back down to 5,000 pretty quickly.
We were looking at this site down the road in Wood Hill. Did they have
no, we never put paperwork in because we didn't.
So I thought Dave Skinner or someone said they had 7,000 foot ceiling.
They might have, because it's that much further out. See, planes are on a glide angle coming down in. So by the time you get to, you're at 6,500 foot ceiling at Cedar Grove. That's the jet line. So we had to keep 1,000 foot below that. And further over at Wood Hill, they'd been higher up in the air, so we could have probably got more distance between the ground and us.
The trouble with higher altitudes is further to go and retrieve your rocket.
Bring the kids along.
So I think it's above mean sea level. AMSL, which means if you're launching on top of a hill, you may not.
You've got less.
So less space.
So you might have an extra 1,000 feet, but just still.
More than 1,000 feet. Above. Yeah, okay. Because Wood Hill was quite elevated.
And we had another. There was another launch site owned by Christoffel. At and I don't know if he still owns the property, and it was approved. They would have preferred we launched. There's a place called Mountain View, and it was over east of where Blake currently is at the moment. Mundurlin and whatever. And Ari went out there, and Blake went out there and had a look at it, but it was heavily timbered.
Yeah, I think we talked about that.
So, probably now all houses and all built up out there.
Yeah, hard to find a spot over there.
Yeah.
We'll be where we are for a while, George. We tried to intershift. We had issues with the power lines. Well, Energex had issues.
Still a problem. Whether
they wanted to shut us down, George.
I'm not surprised.
So we looked at just shifting at 100 meters, 200 meters to the east, and all around, and just nothing worked.
So Logan City wouldn't come up shifting to the other side of the fence.
The other side of the fence, so it wasn't so much a matter of Logan City. The wastewater treatment plant had first right of refusal on all that land there, and they said no.
Didn't have to give a reason when you got first right of refusal.
Yeah, so, and the land there's not as good, and
full of melon holes.
Yeah, so, and a bit sort of marshy, and all kinds of things. So just got too hard.
Yeah.
Maybe we could have done it. Because we were talking to Logan Water about it as well, and they were kind of open, but then we were starting to look at where our cylinder would be positioned.
We'd be right at the very extreme edge of that.
And now we've got the cylinder can't overlap that wastewater treatment plant access road and all these sort of things. So it's a bit too hard.
I was looking at all the gear the club have had over the years, and how we tend to, like all organisations, unless someone is responsible for the gear, it eventually just disappears. I look at the issues that we've had with trailers and launch gear, etc. And I suppose the club, and probably Lynn Forsyth, is as guilty as anyone else when you say to someone, we're going to leave a trailer at your place, and we don't come back for 2 or 3 years, we only have ourselves to blame. When we have launch gear that goes home to someone's place every weekend and it doesn't come back. The club over the years has purchased nitrous GSE. We have purchased radio location receivers. I have no idea where they would be now. I believe they would have probably gone to someone's home and never came back because the person stopped being a member, stopped participating, or they just got filed in the bottom drawer for the next launch, which they never came back to. And I don't know how you'd ever resolve and control that apart from having a clubhouse or some sort of, whether it was a shipping container or something on a site. And we know what Logan City's answer to that is, but I don't know what we could do to.
No shipping container will be allowed there. I mean, the easiest answer.
Would it be allowed further up the hill?
No, that whole area. No, because I spoke to them about behind the environmental centre. No.
Yeah.
The easiest answer, I guess, is put them all in the trailer, store it all in there.
Yeah, but a lot of that gear needs to be maintained. Batteries need to be charged. Where if you had a shipping container, you could at least centralise. I was thinking about that only this morning. What could you do to basically centralise all that gear?
The only thing you can do is put it in the trailer. So we won't have approval for a shipping container, just like we won't get approval for putting concrete pads out there. We won't get approval for putting graveling.
Yeah, no approval for gravel either.
No. Then it becomes they want it kept in the same state it's in now, and
it was a gravel road at one stage.
Yeah.
Do I use that road much?
No, they can't get up.
You can't. Yeah.
I imagine it'll be heavily washed now coming down that hill.
Yeah, the hill at the end of that was like
Ray Jackson's.
Up to Ray Jackson's.
It's just gouged out. There's massive potholes. You're taking a bit of a risk.
So the road up to that point is gravel.
Well, it's as it always was. With Ray Jackson, because it's cross black soil flat there, so Ray would have put down some sort of road base, deco or whatever down on the track at one stage. As long as we maintain the deco, I would have thought we'd be fine.
Yeah, actually, I didn't realise you couldn't go up the hill.
Well,
and I thought they would be. So they've got a different access.
Yeah, you've got the bitumen road access to the wastewater treatment plant and the environment centre.
Which is toilet block and everything.
Yeah.
Which is a totally different.
Yes.
Different road. So that road doesn't go. That goes to the creek and that's it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
you need a crawler.
So I did speak to one of the managers at the wastewater treatment plant, and he said they were planning on getting a grader in to smooth that top section of the road out, because I think they use, maybe it's like an emergency exit or something like that.
How do they get through the fence, the gate?
Well,
I imagine they'd have a gate.
Have you seen the gate lately?
No.
So what we have is this big circle, a daisy chain of locks.
Yeah.
And one of those locks goes through a bit of twine, and that twine is wound around the pole. So to get out of that gate, you just pair of scissors, you straight through.
Yeah. Right.
So who took away the grid? Because that was hugely convenient.
Jarring the grid, yeah.
Well,
that probably when that was probably maybe Ray Jackson took it when he left.
Well, Ray Jackson didn't actually own it.
No, but he had his cattle on there.
Yes. He didn't have any cattle, but he might have had a couple of bits.
Yeah.
But the grid was certainly.
There's quite a large number of cattle out there.
Oh,
they've got some existing cattle.
Yeah, which is good. We had one make a break for it a few launches ago. Made it out of the gate.
Yeah, so you can't leave that gate open. You've got to close it straight behind you.
Correct. Well, so we have we've got the double gates. And what we didn't realise was the second interior gate, all the fencing along that is gone. So that's just like a standing gate there. Okay,
come out.
that's a good sign. Yeah. Any last comments? Any last things to wrap up? You know, what's rocketry done to make your lives better? And
Well, for me,
any last thoughts?
rocketry for 10 years was an obsession.
Wow. Okay.
An obsession.
Yeah.
Like, that's all I ever thought about.
George,
Wow.
we used to either be rolling airframes, attending launches, or
Yeah.
doing something every second weekend,
Oh, yeah.
and all the little things in between.
Yeah, that's right.
Designing rockets, designing Yagi areas, so many things, you know.
Testing all sorts of stuff. Yeah. Walking up and down roads with the Yagi to see how far we could get.
We did it here a couple of times. We were making tape measure
We made a
antennas.
tape measure antenna. Yes. That was funny, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Who would have thought a tape measure antenna? But it was effective.
They just fit it into a
Tube,
tube
yeah.
and just pull it out. And just
Wow.
zaps out.
That was the whole point of it, because you could put it in a tube, so it was a lot easier.
Carry it on your back like a rocket, like an arrow clipper.
Yeah, yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
We did a lot with electronics. We had electronic projects. We built trackers, GPSs, and whatever. These things, you know, today you buy them $35. You know, you buy them pre-assembled, ready to go. But we used to have these electronic days at George's shed, and we'd get, you know, I think I've still got some GPS kits under the house that people purchased and never came back for.
Yeah. Those are
That's where they went.
Well, they would be at Len's place because they.
Yeah,
soon after that,
and then we bought all these little handheld receivers and jimmied them so that they would work, so they could fit in a rocket. These little Uniden walkie-talkies. So they would train it 1 watt walkie-talkies.
Yeah.
We had beacons, all sorts of electronics.
But anyway, it was just a total all-consuming obsession for probably 10 years. And then life changed. And by the time we got over the change of life, moved on.
We retired.
Oh, retired, yes.
I saw your comment about retirement too.
What was my comment about retirement?
Did you say that yes, I'm retired too?
I've never been so busy since I retired.
Yeah. So Len's got all my rockets stuff, like all the airframe. We made a big box to cart everything over to Williams, whenever that was.
Looked like a coffin, didn't it?
It was a coffin, a child's coffin.
Yeah.
That was a big thing, wasn't it? Williams.
And we're worried that they weren't going to arrive. Well, I think when we first arrived, they hadn't been unloaded. We were unsure as to whether they would actually got there.
They arrived the next day.
We arrived on Thursday afternoon or something like that. They weren't there. Our rockets weren't there. We were in Western Australia, and the rockets were somewhere on the Nullarbor.
Okay. They were there the next day. So that was a big deal. It was cold. Like we stayed in some dongas at some.
It was at Williams.
A hotel, I think.
Yeah, like that. Yeah.
Or something. Bruce and Shirley stayed in a motel, which was different.
Yeah.
But we were in a little donna. It was cold. Like when we got up in the morning to go to the launch, which was 20 minutes ice. The car was just totally iced in.
You had a bad slip and fall. Remember, you had a slip and fall on the ice. Was that bad? It had a slight ramp, and it was all iced up with the dew and stuff overnight.
I remember the fall, but could well have happened.
We went out to PK's out the other side of Perth. Little igniters all.
That's right. Now those igniters, they were awesome.
They were awesome. Yeah, they were really good.
They were better than the ones. What are the ones? JTech, the ones that I had, which used 1 unit. The others. Yeah. But they were even better than JTech igniters.
And they were just a pyrogen, and they were just Were they dipped in nitrocellulose? And no, they were dipped in the powder, then dipped in the nitrocellulose. We had a mixture that PK had given us. It had lamp black and basically an oxidizer in it.
Yeah.
That was about it.
Yeah, and it was computer wire, whatever it was.
Yeah, just a bit of, it was just a bit of Cat5 cable.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And we must have sat. We made in one evening. We made the igniters for the entire launch. And we just sat around a table, 5 or 6 people sat around a table, and we just. I sat next to Bruce, and we made igniters all night.
They're not hard to do.
Yeah.
Not hard to do. You could do it again. But yeah, that was a momentous occasion, David Williams.
Nice. Yeah.
And that was see, I think that must have been. It was the year before we were going out to Westmar.
Oh, yeah.
So it was all like we won't be coming here again because.
Yeah, Blake wasn't on that launch at Williams, was he? That launch at Williams.
Think so. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think they had an agreement, like one big launch in the country a year. So it's going to be Thunder one year and Williams the next.
Well, yeah. Well, there were a couple of launches of Westmar before Thunder.
Yeah, they were just dry runs, weren't they? I went to one of those, I think. I mean, this is the first time I went to the second.
I don't know if there was an outstanding video of Ari launching an N motor.
Yep.
And it's absolutely stunning. And there's about a half a second as the camera zoomed right past me, and if you stop it right at that spot there, I'm a big hat and all the rest of it. But if you watch it normally, you wouldn't notice it. And Alex, marching out with Ari's rocket because of the number of people. That was a truly outstanding video. I used to watch it years ago. And then when the motor started, you just turn the volume right up, and it was like absolutely.
So did you watch it on YouTube, or did you have the actual clip?
YouTube would have been YouTube.
When it's still there,
we can still see it. The idea you don't want it. When it gets to the motor igniting, turn the volume right up, and it's just. It's awesome.
How about you, Len? Any final words?
I think we've covered almost everything now. I cannot think of what we.
Well, that's it. That's the idea. It's
At that same launch, I launched a J motor on a
drag race.
Didn't do drag races. There was some other. But it had the telemetron, and of course, at apogee, when the telemetron died, it was the battery that died because it had those overload switches on the battery, so it just stayed where it was. Nothing came through on the computer, and it landed at K to some distance.
You could see where
along a row of cloud ground.
Yep.
And Len's wife, Veronica, kept an eye on it, and I was trying to figure out why the hell the right data wasn't coming up on the computer, but we sort of just.
You can see it. You can see it in the distance.
Yeah, and everything worked. Like it deployed, and the secondary deployment worked. It's just the telemetrons died. Well, it kept transmitting the last thing that it had. We didn't realise what it was. So then, with LiPo batteries, they eventually came out with a hack where you bypass the safety switch that's built into the batteries. I mean, tiny little things. So then I keep working instead of because there was a draw from the to do the deployment charge. That was enough just to trip the switch. So the deployment worked. But the battery in the telemetron died. Must have been because I had at least 2, if not 3, other systems. So the backup systems worked, but the telemetron was the main one. It was just the battery that stopped.
I would have thought that 3D printing would have had a bigger effect on rocketry than what it had. You think you can actually make you can build batteries into AV bays and stuff. All these things, but no one seems to be pushing that envelope. And I don't know if it's because it's. I think you could really reduce the weight penalty down greatly by clever design. You just don't seem to see people doing.
The thing about reducing weight is you reduce strength as well.
Yeah.
So there's a fine line that you've got to between weight and strength. And see, when you start, you've got to make sure it's strong enough. So the weight's not a big problem. It's still going up. Well, that L3, 13,000 feet, and an L2 would have been. It was under 5, obviously.
Yeah. Seated grade. Yeah. When you tie decibel to it.
Tying extra weight actually makes it bigger, vulnerable.
Yeah.
Things break.
Yeah. Yes. I'd be happy to call it quits at that.
In that case, let's call it quits.
Yeah.
Thank you both very much for your time. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today, and also on behalf of the club, thank you very much for the contributions you both made over the last 10, 20 years of the club's existence. Really appreciate it. It wouldn't be where it is today without the contributions you guys made. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the getting hammered when I bring my rocket over to be RSO and that's not done right.
George has promised to tutor a whole new generation of RSOs.
I'll take him up on that.
Launch Nazis.
How that's going to work. My future plan, when I finally caught up with Len, and I was ready to mentor Len to whatever he wants to do, L2, L3.
That'd be good. So yeah, we do have a bit of a glaring hole there in that Len's heavily involved in the club and the committee and the RSO and the LCO, but Len doesn't have his L1 and L2. So if you could be the cattle prod that gets Len, we know he can do it in one weekend, so it's just a matter of, and you've got the motors, and you've got the cases, and you've got the rockets.
He's got a pile of cases.
Pile of motors.
Including redundant CTI motor cases.
If we ever get CTI, it'd be good. What else have we got?
Well, I think the long term
end couplers.
It's going to be motor tables. The transition sections and all the rest of it. Add bows, nose cones with because I modified all the nose cones in the end to take on ab bows.
I recently purchased a pair of Blue Ravens.
Nice. Okay.
So how many? Because I had a couple.
Now these are the Blue Raven and the Bluetooth based ones, as opposed to Raven 2s.
Raven 2s. I had a couple of those, which you've got now. Whether they work or not, they may work. It's no reason.
You just turn them off. They should just turn back on.
I think so. Yeah. Just give them some power. And I had all these little tiny electronic bays for the Ravens.
Yep.
Like they were genius design.
Yeah, I love the Raven 3. I've got a couple of them at home. So yeah, they're really good. They've got upgrade to a Raven 4, but I don't think they changed very much.
No, they went to Blue Raven after that.
And then Blue Raven.
Yeah, so I don't know whether Raven 4 had a problem.
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. Maybe it's just adding Bluetooth.
Bluetooth, and that way you could walk up to it with your phone.
Yep.
And arm it.
We use magnetic switches.
Yep.
Well, see, with the Bluetooth, you don't need to
But you could. They worked very well indeed. When I had 3, so I had to have different switches and magnetics because you couldn't have the same magnet switching everything on because you'd be switching one on and one off. Something like that.
We recently had an issue with magnetic switches and stuff on a what was the full story? Yeah, the one that the black powder that went up in it.
Yeah, when the altimeter was on, it didn't make any noise, so you couldn't tell if it was on or off. So he's gone and turned it off with turned it off with the magnetic switch, but there was no indication it was off. So it was still on.
You know what happened after that? I started using the telemetry, and you were arming it on and off on the computer, so you could tell exactly what was going on. So that, come to think of it, the telemetron was activated on the computer.
Yep.
There was a magnetic switch to
Yeah,
one of the Ravens and a physical switch to the other one.
Yeah, the Blue Raven, the Bluetooth version of the Raven, you physically got to walk to within Bluetooth range. So if you're on a big motor on a big pad, you've got to walk out to the pad.
Yep.
But once you arm it, it'll stay armed.
And you can you can continuously check the status, or you've got to be within Bluetooth
You've got to be
range.
within Bluetooth, right? Which is well. But once armed, it'll stay armed.
Yeah.
And you have to. But if it doesn't go bang, you've got to walk out to within Bluetooth range.
Yeah.
If you were throwing a big O, you'd be a bit worried about that.
Yeah, might be a fair way.
That's where the telemetron was really. That was the ultimate, really, at the time, because you could arm the little laptop there, and you could arm it, you could see it, you knew it was armed, you could switch it off, you could whatever.
Well, yeah, that's what the Fluctus is like. But
Is telemetron still around?
I believe so. Yeah.
His original telemetry stopped producing. I thought they had a fire or something, a production issue.
That was it wasn't fire, but it was a bushfire.
A bushfire.
And it burnt down their facility.
Well, that's substantial.
Like nothing to do with the product. It was to do with just the
environment. And he brought on a telemetron 2. And I think ours was a telemetron 2, wasn't it? Yeah. Anyway.
Good stuff.
It's interesting to see if it actually works.
Bring along. One way to find out.
I would love to be able to get something like a set of daylight bright LEDs that you could hook up to a telemetron so you could see if it fired without having to fire a pyro charge.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
You have to stick a resistor or something.
Mind you, the telemetron.
And that way you could test it and test it and test it. You know. Because the big problem is if you're sticking an igniter, you've got to pop an igniter before you can see whether it's worked or whether you've got it all configured correctly.
I see some sites on the internet say to use Christmas lights, so it just lights up. And like it doesn't pop, and you don't use an igniter. It just
well, that's the same. That'd be the same if you could use it. And like you could go to any of those dump shops. Anytime in January, you can get 1,000 feet of Christmas lights.
The whole point, you've got to have a computer set up. You've got to have an antenna to get it going and then follow it up and follow it down.
Yeah.
And the good thing about the telemetron is it tells you exactly where it landed. Although the first time I used it, I got the launch site and the landing site back to front.
Okay.
And I'm going,
I'm here.
I thought it was that. It was only when I went over and picked it up, which is a couple of k's away, came back and then realised, oh shit, that was the problem. I thought it was an error in the system, but it was in fact I'd confused the starting point with the landing point.
Okay.
Just the orientation of Google Maps.
I think we've lost a lot of skills because we're not launching as frequently.
Correct.
You know, there's a whole process where you've got to go and track down a rocket in a cornfield or over the other side of the hill. That's an art in itself.
Yeah, and I think probably like the availability of the low power motors.
That's right. If they're not going out of sight, you're not developing those skills. Like we used to come out here and we'd go and hide the transmitter somewhere in the bush and then start just down here and then go and try and find it.
Were there ever times you didn't find it?
No, I knew where it was.
Some of it actually.
Maybe we should have got someone else to hide it apart from me.
One of the kids. They'd remember. There was some guy I remember out at Cedar Grove. He was American, and he could first time I'd ever seen it. He could track it on his phone, and he launched some iMotor. He only was there once, and he needed an iMotor, so I gave him an iMotor, and it went up and down over near the river, which is a K away or whatever it is. And we sort of trudged over, and it was like, go this way, go that way. I thought, this is the future of rocket retrieval. Because that was better than, the telemetron showed you where it was on the computer, but you couldn't have the computer with you.
I think I looked into some of those solutions and I needed like a SIM card, something like that. So you had a regular subscription you had to pay. It's almost like a pet tracking device, something like that.
Yeah. Anyway, this guy had it on his phone.
Nice.
It was the only time he was ever there. Some big deal. We've had some interesting people out there. What was that Open Rocketry, that guy?
Yeah, he came out, the author software,
That
the
was,
author of that, he came. Yeah.
remember
Finnish
seeing-
guy.
Yeah, Finnish guy, yeah. But that Telemetron guy, there's two of them. What was the other guy? They basically they had a big conference in Brisbane.
Was that B-Dale?
B-Dale and
International
his mate.
Unix conference or something
Yeah.
like that.
And his mate. And they brought out quite, there's about a dozen
Busload.
people that were going to come out and launch. So Blake had to have a whole bunch of G80 motors. Or G, whatever, what would they be? Single use G motors?
I wouldn't have been G80s.
Or G something or other.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they had all different interesting electronics on them. But they were G motors, obviously. Keith, is it Keith Packard? B-Dale's mate.
Yeah, I know the face. I thought it was Packard. Yeah.
Pretty sure it was. But B-Dale was, did you ever see him?
I missed that launch, unfortunately.
He's a big guy.
Oh, is he?
I mean, a big guy. He was sort of like this mountain.
Wow.
And all his followers just sort of milled around, you know.
Wow.
You stand out in crack.
We were talking about high performance, low power stuff. Ian Voss, who was the guy
Yeah.
I was thinking of?
Yeah, that's
Who's
right.
finally
Now you
crafted,
mention the name. Yeah.
Finally crafted rockets and
Yeah.
altitude.
That's right. Yeah.
Vossy.
That's right.
Alrighty.
Don't remember a lot of these people. I mean, I remember them, but yeah.
And you know, Cart passed away, don't you?
Someone did mention that last year. He wasn't that old either.
No, it was a fair while ago. It's 5 years, 8
Did
years.
you know he passed from it all?
I don't know what he passed away from.
But
I just saw a Facebook page.
he wasn't that old. He was younger than me.
No.
Considerably younger than me. He was a character.
Look, I have found something here that I might just show you, gentlemen. It's a bunch of watch cards from quite some time ago.
And early days.
And they may
Yeah, mate, go into a museum.
I inherited about 5,000 launch cards from you. I've got a box at home just full of launch cards.
Oh, did I have them?
Yeah, this is going back 10 years.
Yeah.
Maybe not that long.
A bit more than 10 years.
How many names do you know?
How many names do I know? Well, that's a school, so I don't know that name.
Oh, right. Okay, that's a school. That may well be.
Aviation High. So I think the yellow one.
They may be Australian Youth Rocketry Charge.
Oh, these two. Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah, no, okay.
Andrew Kelly.
I might have actually been at that one.
Is that's all there is it?
Oh,
yeah.
it's
It's a
okay.
youth challenge. Youth challenge.
Yeah, okay. Now, I looked at that and I thought, that's more. I couldn't work out why I would have had.
Yeah, it's all youth rocketry stuff.
Yeah.
See, that's something that has faded. The youth rock. Did it serve a purpose? Was the juice worth the squeeze? And Blake flogged that horse for a number of years.
I think, I don't know. I only helped out a couple of times, but I think it was a lot of work.
Yeah,
I'm
a
not
lot of
sure.
work, and as I was saying, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
You look at all the work that Harry did with school.
Yeah.
I can't think that would have resulted in a single membership.
Yep.
Well, this is incredible, isn't it? How many schools have got involved?
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
wow.
that's a lot of
Aviation
schools.
High. What's that?
Bow Desert.
Is that Bow Desert?
Bow Desert.
Benny. Aviation. Oh, that makes sense. Bow Desert, another one. Another Rochdale City. Bow Desert, there's quite a few from Bow Desert. Canterbury College, oh yes. Another one from Canterbury College. The race loser, the spring of Canterbury College again. Aviation, oh, that makes sense. Invo. And, okay, Churchill. Canterbury College. Yeah. Interesting, isn't it?
All right, lads, I better get rolling.
You get a hand for gear?
Sorry?
You get a hand with your gear?
Nah, I should be okay. Do you want a hand putting any of this stuff on? You sure?
Yeah. Take your biscuits.
I brought it for you.
Yeah, we don't
Really?
I've had my month's supply of biscuits.
I'd be happy to call it quits at that.
In that case, let's call it quits.
Yeah.
Thank you both very much for your time. Like, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today. And also, on behalf of the club, thank you very much for the contributions you both made over the last 10, 20 years of the club's existence. Really appreciate it. It wouldn't be where it is today without the contributions you guys made. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate the getting hammered when I bring my rocket over to be RSO'd and this is not done right.
George has promised to tutor a whole new generation of RSOs.
I'll take him up on that.
Launch Nazis.
Yeah, that's going to work.